Is that okay?
Okay.
Honey? No, she's gonna
We got a can right behind you.
Haley, come here, honey,
bit.
right here.
Okay, you guys. Thank you for all coming.
That was mandatory.
Appreciate you being here. You guys, I wanted to do this, or Margie asked me to do this, just to kind of show you some tools that I think all of you can benefit from, that are pretty simplistic and very beneficial. You've all had formal education, and you've all been trained in the field of service that you do. And one of the things that we always seem to forget is to always continue to train ourselves. And one of the things I'll put out first is that keep in mind to spend the rest of your life just putting information into your mind that you can utilize in all parts of your life. One of the biggest parts of your life is your working environment. And we have a tendency to operate with this thing called the mind. Now, when I mention the mind, what's the picture that you get? Anybody? What do you think of?
The brain.
You think of the brain. Okay, well the brain is actually it's the portion of the vertebrate central nervous system that's housed in the skull. So that really doesn't sound like the mind, right? And the mind is actually, it's that part of us that's connected to our infinite intelligence. You guys have the same faculties that physicians and doctors and scientists have, the same exact faculties, and you have accessibility to what that can get you. And there's some very basic tools that can be taught on how to deal with that. Now, everyone should be able to answer this. So, what is the primary cause of my results? Okay, we show up every day and we go through whatever we go through. We get up in the morning and we do this and we do that. You put on your makeup, you get the kids dressed, you show up, you hop in your car, you do what you do, and you end up with some results. And that is, your attitude has an effect on the type of results that you get. And that controls basically everything in your life. Now, what's attitude? Okay, you can have a positive attitude or you can have a negative attitude. It's pretty much, if you're going to simplify it, it's down to those two places. And attitude is your thoughts. Okay, the interesting thing is that we think that we have a feeling, and it's like, I'm a victim of my feelings, or my feelings cause me to do something. The truth of the matter is that what happens first is we have a thought, and that causes your feelings. Okay, and your feelings cause actions. You know, you hear about it on the news all the time. Some guy had a feeling and he went out and shot somebody. You know, nice feeling, right? That was the result of some pretty negative thinking, I would think, wouldn't you? Okay. So we're in charge of that. Now, the issue about thinking is that we think in pictures. Okay. You know, if I were to ask you, think of your car. Each one of you comes up with a different picture. Probably your car, or the car that you want to have, right? If I ask you to think of your refrigerator, you think of your refrigerator. Okay, so we think in pictures, and this is something key to remember, because this is what we're going to work on today. So if you're thinking of boat, you're thinking of gears, you know.
Dean, can you do the, I'm sorry, the yield sign analogy, just to give them a...
At a point I will, yes.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. And so what does your mind look like? Well, it's hard to describe because there is no describing it. It isn't a thing. But a description that fits for me is that the mind is an element or complex of elements that thinks, feels, perceives, reasons. That's what the mind is. Okay, it's a device. It's a type of thinking, and that's what it is really not looking at it. But what happened in the 1930s was there was this guy named Dr. Thurman Fleet, And he came up with this magical graphic. You can imagine in the 1930s things were pretty basic and simple. They didn't have PowerPoint presentations and such. So he came up with this little device, and it's called the Stickman. You guys will hear me talking about the Stickman all the time because the Stickman's pretty cool. And as you can see, he was this doctor that wanted to illustrate. He was a chiropractor. He wanted to illustrate the relationship between the mind and the body and how we heal. You know, the chiropractor could work on the elements of the body, but if he didn't have the mind engaged, he probably had a hard time with working on folks' issues that they had with their physical being, because we're basically a spiritual being living in a physical body with an intellect. We aren't intellectual, we have an intellect, and that's the mind. Now, the mind is made up of two parts. There's the conscious mind, and then there's the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is where we create our thoughts, and the subconscious mind is where our feelings are. The Greeks described our subconscious mind as our heart of hearts. Okay? And basically the only thing that goes on in the conscious mind is thinking. And we can have positive thoughts or we can have negative thoughts. We choose that. We decide that. You know, you get up in the morning and I'm sure we've all experienced something like you climb in the car and spilled a cup of coffee on your lap. You either had a negative response to it, or there were times when you kind of laughed at yourself and went, God, here we go, or whatever, but you had a negative or positive response. I mean, maybe the coffee is always negative for some people, but I've had both those. I had a brand new truck and I spilled the coffee in it and I looked at it and I went, go figure, and I walked away from it. It wasn't a big deal, okay? New truck wasn't new anymore. So we choose those thoughts. Now, that's our thinking mind and our emotional mind. Emotional means agitated in feelings. That's what emotional means if you look it up in the dictionary. So we choose our thoughts, and our thoughts cause our feeling. And then what happens is your feelings are expressed in action. Like the guy with that has a bad attitude towards whoever he was on TV that went out and shot somebody. He took on some pretty bad actions. And what did it get him? It got him some pretty poor results. Guy in prison, he was a little angry, whatever. I mean, that's an extreme issue, but bringing it back to a milder thing, the spilling of the coffee, you're going to get one thing or another out of it. So anyway, one of the things that we have with this mind is that we utilize our environment. And our environment is mostly we picked up things from our environment by our five senses. So you can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. Now, from a very early age, we were conditioned to operate with these senses. And they're hardwired into us like a little antenna. And we pick up a lot of what we operate on from our senses. Okay? TV, your mother, your father, your relationships, it doesn't matter, but we are conditioned to grab that information from a very, very early age. And there's a better way. If we're going to change some of the results that we get, if we want to alter what it is that is going on with us, say you're not getting the results you want, whether it's this work or a relationship or your connection to your creator, or your health, we want to alter what it is that we're doing and our thinking and get different results. And we have to do that from within inside. Okay? And how we do that is through our intellectual mind. Okay, this is the key part. We have an intellectual mind. That's that untouchable thing. It's not the brain, it's that part that connects us to that infinite power. Some people call it God, some people just call it intelligence, some people call it whatever they call it. You can look at people throughout history that have been extremely successful at what they do. The only thing they had was they tapped into this intellectual faculty. There's 6 of them. Can anybody name them? Anybody have an idea? You'd be guessing at best. They're They're not something that was taught in school, although this is something that we should have learned a long time ago, because this key little component of information that I'm giving you will make you successful in any area of your life, okay? The first one is perception, okay? Perception is something that we use. We either use it negatively or we use it positively. You guys familiar with Dr. Wayne Dyer? Heard of him? Dr. Wayne Dyer put it best when he said, if we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change, okay? Again, we go back to that reaction. What's your reaction to something? It can be positive or it can be negative. Okay, you're going to be in that state of vibration. You're either going to be in a positive state of vibration about an issue, thing, or place, or you're going to be in a negative state. Okay. The second one is will. Now, when we think of will, what do we think of? Free will. Okay. Anybody else? What's another?
Perseverance.
Okay, another term for what do we always hear? What's the catchphrase?
Willpower.
Willpower. Okay, that's not quite what I'm talking about. Now, the definition that Napoleon Hill came up with. Now, Napoleon Hill is a guy that wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich, which is a lot of what this information comes from. And he was tasked by Dale Carnegie in the about 1910 to study 500 of the most successful and wealthy people in the country. And at that time, there were guys like Wrigley and Edison and Woodrow Wilson. You know, people that none of us remember because we weren't from that era. But he studied 500 of these people over a 20-year period. It took him 20 years to write this book, and found out what it was that these guys had. And they had no specialized or individualized education. I mean, some of them, like Edison, had 3 months of education. You know, the most prolific inventor that ever was, invented the phonograph, the record player, the light bulb. What will is it's the habit of concentrating one's thoughts on the building of plans for the attainment of a definite purpose. I know that's a mouthful, but the will is the habit of concentrating one's thoughts upon the building of plans for the attainment of a definite purpose. Okay, so you're kind of getting these intellectual faculties and what they're about. The next one is your imagination. Okay, we haven't used this properly since you were 1 to 4 years old. Okay, it got knocked out of you when you started going to kindergarten or from your parents. You know, when you were sitting there daydreaming in class and the teacher came over and, you know, nun so-and-so whacked you across the knuckles, or the teacher said, hey, look at the board when you were daydreaming. That's the part of your imagination. You know, when we're thinking about, you know, when we went to cosmetology school and we thought, I can just see myself, that mind in pictures, having, you know, working in a salon and being very successful and having a lot of fun, taking good care of customers and making them beautiful, right? That was your imagination. That's what got you going. That's what started you in studying, okay? The next one is our memory. Another very misused intellectual faculty, okay? The problem is we live in a very judgmental physical conditioning. We pick up a lot of negative memories throughout our life. And we bring them forward with us. We drag them along. We got a big bag full of them, and we take them with us. And we don't have to do that anymore, because the study of this stuff, you can actually go forward without having a lot of that, and you can draw up a lot of the old memories that are good. And Margie was mentioning a few minutes ago about the stop sign thing. So let's take a look at that. How many sides does a stop sign have? Anybody know?
8.
8. Okay. What color is the stop sign?
Red.
Red and what?
White.
Okay. Now, a yield sign, how many sides does it have? 3. Okay, and what color is it? Okay. Do you know that in North America and Canada that the yield sign has been red and white for the past 30 years? Okay. So your memory is conditioned to pick up information that isn't necessarily correct. So you can now every time you guys drive by a yield sign, you're going to look at it and go, was he right? Is that true? Look it up on the internet. For 30 years in North America and Canada, it's been red wine.
So we're conditioned to our environment.
Well, we remember things that maybe aren't serving us real well, or
Because
they
it
could be
used to be
incorrect.
yellow.
You know? Yeah, we pick up
And you don't even
information
sometimes realize.
from some of this conditioning,
Right.
from some of these senses that maybe don't serve us properly, okay? So, keep that in mind, you know, some of your old memories aren't doing you very much good. The next one is intuition. Okay, intuition is it's that sixth sense, okay? It's that, you walk into a room and you had a feeling about a guy, and I don't like that guy, whatever, and you don't even know him, but you got an intuition. Another quote from Dr. Wayne Dyer is that if prayer is us talking to God, then intuition is God talking to us. You know, it's that kind of, I got a feeling about something, I sense something, okay? And last but not least is reason. No other animal in our lives has, or no other animal in our world has that ability to reason. It's been described as our, that connection to the mind, that intellectual faculty, that we actually have a choice. And we can decide what to do with any given situation. And going back to this intellectual mind and our emotional mind, and the results we get, we decide, we think our way into what vibration we want to be in. And the law is that the vibration we're in is either positive or negative. Okay? It's one or the other about anything that's going on in your life. So, if you want to alter your feelings and what's going on with you, then you actually have to change that. So, what I'm going to do is kind of give you guys some things to look at and do that may involve several areas. What I'd like you to do, basically on your notepad, is to think of some goals that you have and what you want to get out of those goals. Now the goals can be, and I'll give you 4 areas to look at.
Are these towards life goals or salon goals?
Well, you guys can decide whatever you want to do. One of the reasons we're here is that you guys started working here for a reason. You liked what you came into. You came here because you thought it was an opportunity for you to be successful at what you do. And one of the things to take a look at is that how do we make that happen? Okay. Now, if you really, if at first blush you go, why am I working? Why do you guys work?
Make money.
Make money. Okay. I don't think that's it. I really don't think that's it. I think what it is the money gets you something, right? It gets you the freedom to go do what you want. It gets you the tool by which to feed yourself, to make a future for your kids, to buy a house, have a relationship with your husband, wives, boyfriends, whatever. And it gets you something. The interesting thing is that there's another law of compensation that involves having to give, okay? And we don't get without having to give. It's like walking up to a fireplace and saying, give me fire and I'll give you wood. Okay, just come on, give me the fire and I'll give you wood. Okay? And I'm telling you, if I tell you nothing else, that the only way you get in this world is if you give something of equal or better value. Okay? Constantly. You don't elevate your relationship with your lover without giving them more than you get. And if you're constantly giving more than you get, you're going to have a hell of a relationship. That's true in business too. One of the things that goes on here is that, I live with your boss and I see her at 10, 11 o'clock at night putting into this facility, whether it's on a computer or stuff she has to deal with or whatever. She's constantly working at it so that she has a great environment for you guys to work in. So and that's a long answer to the question, but one of the areas that's a big part of your life is how you work and what you do and why you do it. If you're constantly thinking that you're working because you want to offer good service to somebody and you want to make them feel better and you want them to walk out of here because and have them be happy with what you did, then you're going to be successful. If you're, we go back to the attitude thing, if we go back to the thinking, if you're constantly thinking customers are a pain in the ass and they're always problematic and I hate the fact that I do something and they they always have a crummy response to it, then pretty much you're going to attract that to yourself. So the areas that I want you to think about is definitely your work, okay? And what I want you guys to do is you're going to take a little proactiveness in how you approach work or these other areas that I'm going to suggest and see you're going to write down some goals and I'm going to give you some tools by which to process those goals and then be proactive in what you want to change in your life, okay? So the other areas that you might want to consider are your relationship with your creator, whatever that is. If you don't have one, then I guess you don't need to consider that. The other one is your spouse, partner, children, family member relationships. The third one, which is kind of falls under the work one, is your personal financial wealth. And as I mentioned, money. In caption here we have your family's security. So money buys us a lot of things. Okay. Now your personal and professional development. What are you doing for that? You guys all have your cosmetology licenses or whatever have gotten you here, but never stop. What is it you want to do next? What area do you want to improve? Who do you want to talk to here that may know something more? Keep at that on a daily basis. And then the health of your physical body. Health is always very important. Okay? So those are the areas. Now, got some handouts here for you. So now what we're doing basically is you've gotten areas that you want to do something about, and the something that you want to do is that you want to kind of have a new vision or you want to create a goal about. So as you pick this on your own, and remember that if you don't do this, you're only cheating yourself, because I'm not going to know whether you did it or not. So this is just a tool to benefit yourself.
Thank you.
Has everybody got one? Okay, so let me go over these. What do you really believe is possible from this business in 12 months? So this is going back to the one in regards to this business. Okay, and if you look at this business as a partnership, it's a partnership between you and Margie, or it's a partnership between you and all the other gals in here. It kind of takes on a different flavor. But if you think of it as, I got to get to work and get my 5 clients done, I got to get out of there and get on with my life, then that's pretty much all it's going to be. But I'm sure you guys have experienced referrals, or this is a fairly new salon and process here with this group. You guys have known each other for a fairly short time. The development of that is all getting together and trying to support each other. If you guys support each other more, you're going to get better results. So, and why do you believe that is possible? Based on the strengths and weaknesses that lead you to believe that number. And what they're talking about is a number that whatever you figure out. If you guys have come in here and said, at some point, I gotta make X amount of dollars, and I'm working with Lisa in what's called a mastermind group, and she's picked a number, and she has a date on that number. Be very specific about what you want, you know? You guys have kind of been maybe flopping along, going and hoping and wishing that, you know, you'd have this particular number that you'd earn every month, and then everything would be okay, right? Just remember that when you set that standard, that at some point you're gonna surpass it and want more, okay? So it's always moving. But set something. Set something that you think's realistic, or set something a little bit out of reach, just a little bit. You know, if you think that you want to earn $3,000 a month, or $5,000 a month, and you're like, yeah, I could do that maybe in 3 months, go, okay, I want $6,000 a month, and I'm going to do it in 3 months and 2 weeks. So always set the standard just a little bit higher, make yourself stretch, okay? Now, what is the belief, the motive, or the force that gives you that perception? Remember your perception, okay? What's going to happen when you ask yourself this question is that you're going to have that response. You're going to have that conditioning go, yeah, but, or that's not realistic, or whatever. You really kind of have to think, and this is what when we're talking about using our intellectual faculties instead of our conditioning, that I'm either going to approach this positively, or I'm going to let that conditioning kind of adjust my negativity about it. Yeah, I can make $3,000 a month, but that's only if, you know, Margie gets enough clients in here, or, you know, if so and so if I had a better chair up front, or I was getting the phone calls, or what, you know, I mean, there's a million things that come up when you think about why it is that you can't, or why it is that it won't, or how come it doesn't, okay? That's that old conditioning. Remember, it's either positive or negative. So if you build this in the positive and work towards it in the positive, I'm guaranteeing you results from it, okay? So what would you want your belief to be? That's kind of what I'm talking about. What's your new belief, okay? So what is the necessity?
The necessary.
Necessary belief to get to the amount you want. Based on what you wrote down in number 5 and 3, what's gonna happen to make it happen, and things you should know, you should know, or would do, or could do. So ask, seek, and knock. So that's basically talking about, okay, you know, you set a goal for X amount of dollars or something, or you set a goal for, I want my relationship, I want to make it through the next week without getting in a fight with my husband or boyfriend. What's it gonna take to make that happen? You know, what new beliefs are you gonna set in there? What are you gonna do? Well, every time he barks at me about something that always pisses me off, I'm not gonna react. Maybe that's one for the relationship. As far as the business goes, you know, every time somebody calls up and says, can you come in and do this one job? Maybe you change up and go, I'm gonna show up, I'm gonna make it happen. There's a million different things that go on in your head when you guys are sitting here listening to this that can be different. So apply that. And remember that asking, seeking, and knocking, those are actions. And what thoughts do you need to be thinking to be in harmony with question 4? So again, you've set this goal, you've set this thing that you want to do. That's you got to look at what it is what new belief or what new thinking you're going to have to that. Now, I can guarantee you that your old paradigms and your old thoughts are going to come up. They're always going to come up and go. That there's going to be, and you'll start recognizing it now. Now that we're talking about it, you'll start remembering. Yeah, but I'm tired. Or yeah, but that's in the way. Or then I got to do this. Those are the things that we had. Remember when I was showing your conditioning from your senses? Those are the things. Those are those old thoughts that come up. And if you continue to hold that positive thought towards what it is that you want to attain, those voices will get quieter. You know, those little subtle comments, that committee that's in your head. You know, the group that sits there as soon as you get up in the morning and goes, I'm tired. I don't want to get up. How can I get out of this? I don't want to go to work today. okay? It's, we all got that stuff running. And you just, thanks for sharing, but I got some goals today I want to attain, okay? Now, 10 things you have or haven't, you have or have, or do. God, why am I need water.
10 things you have to have or do.
Right. You gotta have an all-consuming obsession in your new belief, okay? Well, anytime that you've ever wanted to change something, anytime that you ever wanted something, look back at whatever experiences you had when you really kind of, really wanted it, when you're with your parents and you're like, come on, Maya, I want this new thing, and you just worked them and worked them and worked them and worked them, and finally they changed their, they're saying no or whatever. That's the obsession, okay, of the new thing. Take action steps, okay? Remember that what it is that you want to attain, it's not going to happen if you don't apply something to it. Anything, I mean, getting out of bed when that committee's going off in the morning, the first thing that you do, the first action that you have, is you slide your feet over to the side of the bed and you stand up, okay? That's an action. That's an action towards what you're trying to do. So just find things and build on what you're after, little by little, and you'll start seeing results, okay? And then you've got to find your yes. You've got to find yes people. You've got to find yes conditions. You've got to create yes. So whatever it is that you're looking for, keep that in mind too, when you're trying to change those areas that we've talked about. And remember that you can't negotiate a price for your new belief. You've got to be willing to do anything to attain it, okay? Any change from here on out in your life, whether it's work, with your relationship with your higher power, with relationship with people, with your health, that's something you got to remember, okay? And you're going to have to continue to be creative. That means you're going to have to step out of what worked in the past or what doesn't work now. Okay, you just got to constantly step up to the plate and come up with something new. I see it in Margie all the time. She wants to come in and rearrange this, or she wants to do that, or she tries to figure out what works and what doesn't. You guys you've got also what goes on here is what's called the third mind, or the third eye. It's the conscious effort of everybody getting together and working towards something. Okay, this salon can be extremely successful, and it's about all of you collaborating and working together. And that takes effort. A lot of us are in our little comfort zones, and we want to go get in there and do our own little thing and then get out. But you build what you want to have, and that's how you have to do that. Continue to be creative. You have to be willing to stand up to your old beliefs when they come around. That's what I was talking about as far as the old paradigms, the conditioning that comes up. Okay? And you got to take the first step toward knowing what the next step is. That when I started doing this, I got into this life success coaching, and I was going to a training in Florida, and one of my coaches told me, I said I want to set up a mastermind group, but I think I need to wait till I learn all the information till after the training. And she said to me, no, go set it up now. And I said, well, I don't know all the information. She said, that's okay, do it anyway. And I did it. And I'm 3 or 4 weeks ahead of where I would have been if I hadn't have just done it. Go for it. Whether you know it or not. You're going to do some new color of hair, or you're going to do some new thing. You're going to create some new thing with somebody on there. Well, how do you accomplish it? You say, okay, I can do this, and then you go find somebody to assist you. You get assistance. You look for help.
Right.
Step out of your comfort zone.
Do it without any, seeking of knowledge or
exactly.
Yeah, that's important.
Always. That's why it says, find your yes people, find your yes conditions.
Right.
Find the information that gets you to be better at what you do. And you got to understand the law of sacrifice. Let go of lesser values for better values. Okay, they're talking values, but let's keep in mind it's anything. You want a better day with your relationship, or you want a better day at work. You gotta let go of what it used to be like in order to create what it's going to be like. Okay. And 9, you've got to see yourself in possession of what you're after. Remember we talked about thinking in pictures? Okay, what is that picture about? Why do you work? You know, what are the reasons? You know, what does that picture involve? That involves me having enough money to pull out of my wallet to go buy that new BMW, to, you know, to buy that house with my relationship, to you know, have a car that's not broken down all the time, to whatever. You've got to think in pictures. You've got to think of those things. That's what will draw you towards what you're trying to attain in your life. Okay, and again, remember, you have as much access to that creative intelligence, that mind, as anybody else that has accomplished great things. It's how you utilize it. Okay? And then you've got to celebrate your victories. You know, pat yourself on the back. Don't forget, you're your own cheerleader. And if you're the voice inside your head that always says, I can't do that, or I'm not going anywhere, or I wish I was something like that, or I could do it like that person, you're not doing yourself any service. Okay? Remember, you're either in a positive thought or you're in a negative thought. So you just have to continue to build on those positive thoughts. So you have those areas that you want to succeed at, and I'm hoping that this was helpful. I've got one other little thing for you guys to look at, and the only reason I put this on is because I'm pretty impressed with this guy. There's a story behind it. I'll tell you afterwards, but I've got a video clip for you to watch. And it's pretty good. So,
Is it my favorite one?
what's your favorite one? Have you seen this? Pretty wild.
When I walk by your side, I can only imagine what my eyes will see when your face is before me. I can only imagine. I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in awe of you be still? Will I stand in your presence? To my knees will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak at all? I can only imagine. I can only imagine. I can only imagine.